This is, we're going to call this the right side of the class and the left side of the class, even though her reference is left side versus right. So, because the kids are the reference. Okay. So if I've got a right brain problem, I've got behavioral issues, problems with emotions, problems with social situations, and problems with controlling my attention. That doesn't mean I can't attend. That means it rules me, I don't rule it, okay? That's right brain. And so if I want the kid to grow their brain while in class, I want them on the right side of the class. Why? Because the teacher comes, if I'm sitting out here in class and the teacher's over here, the teacher is coming to the outside of this retina and the inside of this retina. The outside of this retina stays on the right. The outside of the inside of this retina crosses over and goes to the right. So now I'm building my brain more on the right because the teacher's here. That make sense? Mm-hmm. Same concept. If I have a kid, usually has social skills, usually is maybe a little more subtle, and that he's got a good right brain. That means you think, well, he's really smart. No, he's social, and so he knows how to hide it, and he knows where his flaw is, so he's able to hide it. Whereas this one's like, and you go, man, that kid's dumb. No, they're very smart. They're over smart because they got a great left brain and no right brain. Okay, so I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them over here. Now, where do they fit front to back? Okay, if I've got a lethargic kid, I'm putting them in the back. We'll call that ADD just for lack of a better term right now. A quick term would be ADD. The ADD, ADHD is going to not be the brain as much as it's going to be the basal ganglia. Do I have a gas pedal or brake pedal? No gas pedal, okay? And so I'm going to put them in the back. Why? Because they're still coming to the left, right? But because I'm in the back, it's going to be the teacher's coming more to the top of my retina. And the top of my retina on each side goes through what we call the dorsal stream in the brain, and that dorsal stream goes through the frontal and parietal lobes, which are dopaminergic, which wakes that kid up. I would also put them in red sunglasses and make sure they're getting protein, because that's all dopaminergic, right? Let's say we've got ADHD, and they'll tend to put the ADHD kids in the front anyway. They'll want to go to the back. A little more on that in just a second. I put the ADHD kids here because they're in the front and it's coming to the left. They're going to the bottom of the retina. That goes through the ventral stream. The ventral stream goes through the temporal lobe, which is serotonergic, which is calming, which is like the color blue. So that doesn't mean they have to wear blue all the time necessarily, but I'm going to make sure that they have blue so that they can look at it, and carbs. But most of these schools are so freakish about snacks, and especially nuts. You know, I could take this entire generation out with one jar of nuts. Mm-hmm. Say, that's not my problem, right? That's not my kid's problem. That's your kid's problem. And you likely have created it by all of your freakish worry about sicknesses, and so now you've washed their immune system and reduced the immunological load so low, and then they're developing an autoimmune because of their developmental issue.
And so, do they need to be exposed to nuts earlier? If they're How do you counter that?
See, if they start to have those kind of problems, what am I dealing with? Likely autoimmune. So now we got to talk about vitamin D. Is it Th1, Th2, right? I'm concerned about something from the outside world. So I'm going to deal with that to get it to stop. Then they can have nuts.
these poor kids, how can they learn anything because they're so inundated with their own thought processes controlling them. How I bless their hearts.
And they can never even develop the circuitry, and mom's always concerned, and then finally saying, throwing her hands up, let's do homeschool. Now what's happening,
yes.
right?
And
they
these
have
teachers are
zero
becoming,
social skills.
It's just becoming a hurting and let's just get it through. Let's just get through this.
And that's okay, because now it's really not about education anymore. It's about indoctrination. We're going to teach our values now, and that's more important than all the other stuff that we used to teach. And we're paying these people to do that, which is really weird.
If we were learning these things about our brain as a child, the things that I've taught my grandson already, he's 4, he grasped it.
Yep, yeah.
I'm like, well, then why aren't we teaching you this already? Yeah.
He's a scientist. In fact, my standard when I teach for myself that I hold myself to is, if you can't teach it to an 8-year-old, you probably don't understand it yourself. That means just you break it down farther. And if somebody isn't getting it, they'll notice. I'll start getting frustrated, and they'll say, I'm sorry. I said, what are you sorry about? I'm frustrated at me. I'm responsible for you understanding this. I understand it. You don't, right? I'm the guy who has to break this thing down so that you can get it. So you relax. It's my fault here, right? And so I want them to completely understand, and that the other part of the standard, my personal standard, is I want everybody to understand and nobody to misunderstand. So, that makes sense?
Yes, it's amazing.
All right, guys, we got to get working.